Does anyone here think of becoming an entrepreneur? Let me pitch you during the next 15 minutes why your next startup should be a construction tech startup. Hi, I'm Zachi Flatto, the CEO of ConTech, which is a construction innovation center and incubator based here in Tel Aviv. How big is this market? Well, it is huge. Construction is responsible for 10% of the world's GDP, a 13 trillion market, and it keeps on growing. The most interesting figure here is this. As the world's population is growing, until 2060, 13,000 new buildings per day are required to match this growth. The supply is not going to match the demand. How about the pains of our industry? It might sound trivial, but let me recap 6 main pains of our industry. The first one, we have a dramatic skilled workforce shortage. Between 25 to 40% of the construction workforce in the Western world today will be retired by 2030. Now looking at the future, that is even worse. Only 3% of young adults are interested in the construction trades. How does the day life in the industry looks like? Would you believe that in the construction materials supply chain, the fax, yes, the fax, is still a common tool to send orders, and this is happening in the Western world. 4 hours spent in a day by architects on searching for product information. 3 to 5 hours on manual and repetitive communication daily. Around 20% of the needed materials is still being bought by workers at Home Depot. As ridiculous as it may sound, this is the reality of the construction industry. I can speak a couple of hours about the low productivity, communication, budget, safety, and schedule and workforce issues. But I think you already got the point here. So what's the solution for these pains? You probably know the answer. Adopting technology will make a significant change. Now speaking about technology, what are the latest trends here? Digitalization will surely lead in 2021. The industry is much more mature today. Digitizing processes consists of innovations that digitize traditional processes. This enables the process to analyze more data, be accessible online and real time, while making them more efficient and user-friendly. For today, I have chosen 3 examples of digitalization. The first one, remote work. In 2020, suddenly it was not required to be physically present on job site. The construction world shifted to remote work. For construction professionals themselves, remote management tools will likely be a major asset in 2021 and the future. A significant part of remote work will be digital collaboration. Digital collaboration tools has been around for many years. Finally, today, they are considered a foundational technology. This change was made for 2 reasons. First, people were not able to meet in person during the pandemic, and it simply left no other choice. Second, these tools have developed by growth and acquisitions into unified platform hubs designed to be the core tool to enable all other technologies to connect. The second example, digital twins. So you probably heard this term before, but what is it? Unlike traditional construction models, the digital twin replicates every detail of the original object, whether it's a high-rise or an infrastructure. This means that the digital twin can imitate the behaviors and processes involved in the construction all the way down to the individual materials and components, starting from the design process through the construction phase, and obviously to the management and maintenance phase, through the whole life cycle of the building or the infrastructure. After many years of nice-to-have attitude, today it is clear that the digital twin is essential, and hence digital twin adoption will likely increase. Global digital twin supported solution in just for smart cities will reach 3.77 billion by 2026. Data integration is the third example. You probably ask yourself, how many data sources are in a typical construction project? Well, in every single project we can map at least 10 to 15 data sources and different systems, 5 to 6 different applications, budgets, schedules, bill of quantities, job site logs, not to speak about the BIM CAD models, ERPs, and more. There are many ways of data transferring, and people are very innovative in the way they transfer data. Most of them are doing that manually in spreadsheets, emails, and some other ways. The main problem here is that a lot of data is lost, a lot of double work, and maybe the most important point here, there are no insights created and no combined analysis. Data integration might sound easy, but in order to create real value out of it, we need some good technology. Robotics and automation is the second trend. Labor shortage appears in most of the industry reports as one of the top concerns of our industry. Increasing construction efficiency by replicating repeatable tasks like bricklaying or rebar tying with robots rather than human labor. With the addition of AI, this sector is developing for more advanced tasks like fully automated excavation. Contrary to common fears where robotics is applied, they have multiplied human ability and allowed for increased productivity. A McKinsey analysis supports this and shows that higher productivity and autonomy would add another 1.6 trillion to construction global value. Robotics will likely begin assisting construction workers by augmenting small and repeatable tasks to alleviate some pressure. The third and last trend, sustainability. The entire economy is pushing towards greater environmental friendliness. Car manufacturers like General Motors pledging to eliminate gas-powered vehicles by 2035, something that would have been inconceivable not too long ago. Construction companies, material providers, and other industry players investing a lot of efforts to create a much more sustainable industry. However, the process is still young. This trend will continue in 2021, especially as governments offer specific incentives for environmentally conscious building projects. Now, looking on green buildings, they present one of the biggest global investment opportunities of the next decade, estimated by the IFC to be 24.7 trillion by 2030. The size of the opportunity is much bigger than the size of the pain, and it's simply massive. Now let's see how other domains looks like investment-wise. You can clearly see that 10 billion accumulated funding is the point of inflection. On average, it took a sector around 3 years to get from 5 billion to 10 billion funding. That is the way it happened in mobility, travel, logistics, and PropTech. In construction, we are very close to this point of inflection. A lot of funding is flooding into the industry during the last year, with some specialized groups of VCs and famous names such as Y Combinator. At the startup side, we can see unicorns with fat rounds of funding. And yes, they are also the ones that finish their funding. So now you're already convinced that funding is more than possible. We saw a beginning of a revolution at the last 5 years. We passed the first wave of construction tech startups and entrepreneurs facing the penetration and education of the industry for the need of technology. Companies try to implement technology with short-term needs for a specific project and no strategic targets. In a lot of the cases, these implementations did not meet the long-term needs of the companies. I believe that their failure was priceless to the construction tech industry. Here is a snapshot of the ecosystem in Israel done by ConTech. As you can see, the ecosystem covers the different stages of the life cycle in the construction and real estate industry. We can see usage of the most advanced technologies adopted into the industry needs. In Israel, we grew from 10 to 200 startups in just 4 years, and then COVID hit. When the pandemic hit, the impacts were immediate. From March to April of 2020 alone, construction employment declined by 975,000 jobs. That's about 13% of the USA construction workforce. New safety protocols were mandated, supply chains were interrupted, job sites were closed, and contracts were terminated to control expenses. Did COVID-19 disrupt the industry? In many ways it did. It demonstrated that technology is essential for the AEC industry as companies can increase their efficiency and resilience. How did it happen? We've discussed already digitalization. we saw this year more investments in digitizing processes and platforms. Finally, after many years, doing things digitally has become the new normal. COVID-19 acted as technology catalyst. One of the most dramatic aspects here, CO2 emissions. After years of talking about sustainability, external forces may now accelerate the process to act sustainable. With over a year of adaptability, the future looks bright. The construction industry is recovering. This is the Hoover Dam. It is a concrete arch gravity dam in the Black Canyon of the Colorado River, on the border between US states of Nevada and Arizona. It was constructed between 1931 and 1936 during the Great Depression. Infrastructure was always a good way to get out of recession. That's the way it worked in the Great Depression of the 30s, and that's the way it will work now. In the coming years, we will see a massive amount of capital invested in infrastructure. Just in the US, more than $2 trillion. This will create multiple opportunities for technology providers. Almost 100 years passed since the Hoover Dam was built, and today, the Tilmer Bridge, located close to the Hoover Dam, was inspected by a state-of-the-art Israeli technology. We see more and more how Israel becomes a central hub for construction technologies that operate globally. Now, what makes the Israeli ConTech ecosystem so unique? It's the cross-vertical technology merged into the construction industry needs, the support of multinationals working with Israeli technologies, and the Israeli academia that supplies the talents and the seeds of the technology. We had some great success stories here in Israel in 2020. Some big rounds of funding, the first IPOs in Tel Aviv, and some impressive global awards. ConTech supports tens of startups and will continue in building this disruptive industry. Today is the best time to build your own ConTech startup. Thank you.